Mine's been dead forever. All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Yeah, my iPad's been dead for about 2 years now, so I think I need to replace it. It is training camp week. We have just had our first two padded practices Sunday and today. Um, they have a day off tomorrow, but with 5 days in the books, we're already seeing some things happen. We're going to talk about that tonight. I've got Michael Thomas's jersey on, so we're going to talk about his holdout and the national freakout because he's holding out. Um, and we'll talk about some of the training camp darlings that are already springing up. Some of the guys that we thought we had some questions about whether or not we think they could make it, make an impact on this team. Sucked in air wrong. We thought we had questions whether or not they can make a good impact on this team, and already in training camp they are. So let's go ahead and get started. Got my co-host who's been having technical problems. Stop playing with it. Sean Williams. How you doing tonight, Sean? Technical problems aside.
Well, that aside, I'm hitting on all cylinders, man. I got my smile back. Things are going great. Everything is right where it's supposed to be and falling in line. And yeah, it's been real good, man. It's been real good. Apple computers can go to hell, but I mean, outside of that, we want to thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us. We want to invite everyone to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And in the personal messages column, we want to thank everybody from day one, 3 years ago, that has taken part in what we do here. We don't say much about it. Alan and I do this show, and obviously we don't make any money doing this. This is a labor of love for the both of us. This is something that we love to do. We love the Saints. We love talking football. But you guys make it worth it. When you interact with us, you tell us how much you enjoy the show. And I've made a lot of new friends through this. And from the bottom of my heart, I think that I'm speaking for me and my partner in crime there when I say thank you guys so much for making us a part of your week every week. You have no idea just exactly the impact that doing this show has made on us.
Okay, then I don't know how to respond to that, but yes, thank you guys for sticking with us because, like Sean said, without you, there really is no show. It's just two guys just rambling on. We do read what you guys write. We do pay attention to the live stream, and we appreciate you sticking with us. It's a lot of fun getting to vent about the Saints, getting to cheer the Saints. I have people asking me all the time, man, what did you say after that NFC Championship game? What was y'all show like? Well, we can go back and pull this thing up, and people are like, man, you really did capture those emotions for it still being so raw. Y'all actually pretty professional. Well, we try. So thank you guys once again for sticking with us. So let's start with the first topic. Okay. Michael Thomas. He did not report to training camp. He is holding out. People are pointing out the fact that he is under contract, so he should be there. But as I've been trying to remind people, the Saints actually are the ones that started this process about getting him under a new deal. So he does not want to participate in practice until this deal is done. And we keep hearing today was another example. They're very close. The number that gets thrown around is about $20 million a year. But that how they get to that $20 million is part of the details they need to work out. I suspect it's going to be probably a 5-year deal worth $100 million with anywhere from 60 to 70 million guaranteed, probably within the first 4 years. Sean, what is your take first off? on the Michael Thomas holdout, the contract demands, and so forth?
I don't really read too much into the holdout. I mean, both sides are communicating. It's not like sometimes when this takes place, it's almost as if the player is going on strike, so to speak. That's the only parallel that I could draw to it. I don't think that that's the case here at all. This is just how the game is played. I don't think that there's hard feelings or any sort of harsh approach from either side on it. I'm kind of torn. I believe that Michael Thomas deserves everything that he's asking for. I really do. Because in the past 3 NFL seasons, nobody has done what he's done. Period. End of story. Antonio Brown gets the major bucks from a notoriously perennial tightwad organization. Antonio Brown hasn't done what Michael Thomas has done. But then again, on the other side of the ledger, the Saints, while they may not be right now, they're going to be in kind of a weird or maybe somewhat awkward position in the next 2 to 3 seasons, which you and I discussed at length regularly on here. Because coming up, you have the Lattimore deal, you've got the Kamara deal, you've got Marcus Williams, you've got Anzalone, you've got Ramczyk, you've got Pete, all these players that are such an integral part of your team are coming up on new deals. So you can't really afford, from a business standpoint, to throw the bank at one player. And all that the Saints are, I get the impression anyway, all the Saints are trying to do is to align these things to where you can address each one of these guys that you want to keep in your organization. And deal with Michael Thomas, but do it in such a way that you're still going to be able to address Lattimore and Kamara next year and all these other guys. This is just the way that the game is played. So thus far, now, if the holdout lasts through the preseason and we're approaching week 1 and still no Michael Thomas on the field, I might have a different take on it. But right now, I don't read too much into it.
Yeah, one of the questions I've gotten in the past has been, why is he holding out? Why are they doing this now? He's under contract. He has a year before he's a free agent. Why are they dealing with this now? And one of the biggest reasons why they're dealing with it now is because, let's just say the Saints didn't do anything with him. He's here. He's at camp. He's playing. He has another incredible season. He catches 130 passes for about 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. Okay, so now he's going to be the most desirable free agent that's going to hit the market in 2020. Okay, so you're saying, well, that's no problem. We'll just franchise tag him. Okay, the franchise tag is for 2019, $16.75 million. If you franchise tag Michael Thomas, and it will go up next year, let's say for the sake of argument, it goes up to $17.5 million. Okay, you franchise tag this man for $17.5 million. That's now $17.5 million out of your cap for next year that's allocated to Thomas, and you have no idea whether he's going to sign that tender or not. He may get pissed off. He may end up doing what Le'Veon Bell did and just sit out. He may hold off until the last minute. That hamstrings your organization from doing the other things it needs to do. You look at the free agents that are coming up for next year. You've got all 3 quarterbacks come up as free agents. Now, Taysom Hill is an exclusive rights free agent, so you don't have to worry about him going to anybody else, but Teddy Bridgewater is a free agent. Drew Brees is a free agent. We don't know what Drew's plans are after 2020. You've got Andrews Pete. I know a lot of people are like, oh, let him go. but you've got Andrews Pete coming up. You've got Marcus Williams coming up. You've got Von Bell coming up. You've got all these players who will be free agents, plus any new people that you want to bring in to address injuries or weaknesses on this team. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that, Ted Ginn Jr. gets hurt again. He's ineffective. I need to bring in a receiver. They got some good receivers coming out. I can't spend any free agent money on a receiver now. That's all part and parcel of this thing. So what the Saints want to do is get Thomas under contract now, give him a deal that in 2020 lowers his cap number less than what they would pay as a franchise tag player, and be able to use that cap room to not only sign the existing free agent players, but also bring in anyone that they may think they need to address weaknesses on the offensive line, including, for you people who want to get rid of Andrews Pete, maybe a new guard to come in, a starting guard. It's just Mickey Loomis has to look at the big picture of this and has to realize that, and is realizing that, you've got a budget not only for next year, but for the length of the contract and the contracts that are expiring, who you're going to want to keep, and when you're going to be able to have room to start signing these other players. This is actually a good thing, because this is a problem good teams have that draft well. And we have been drafting well. We're going to talk about a couple of those draft picks that are having outstanding camps later on in the show. And one of these guys could be the replacement, or both guys could be the replacement for Marcus Williams and or Von Bell. So, these are all things that the Saints organization are doing right now, the business side, the personnel side, that we don't see. And I think fans really take these holdouts personally, because they view them as, you don't really want to be part of this team if you're holding out. And that's not the case at all. It's a business deal. And that's how you have to look at it. It's strictly business. It's nothing personal. And the players know that, because the players' attitude is, hey, if this guy gets paid, we saw what he did to get paid. Thomas works hard. He puts up the numbers. He puts the skins on the wall. He's a great teammate. That's the kind of guy that should be rewarded in this organization. If he gets paid, I know when it's my turn, I'm going to get paid if I do a lot of the same things. And that's why they support Michael Thomas or any player that holds out that's good. That's my 2 cents.
I think that this is just, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, this is just the way that the game is played. This is how business is done at this level. And I mean, if you want to think about it in a different way, Michael Thomas is staying healthy. Michael Thomas isn't having wear and tear that he's going to be feeling come December and January. If you got to have a bright spot to look at.
He's a professional. My attitude is he's probably in better shape than some of the guys that play in camp right now. So, he's a professional. There's no – Joe Johnson skipped the entire training camp and preseason, didn't show up to week 1 of the 1998 season. Third play from scrimmage, it's a strip sack fumble recovery on quarterback Tony Banks for the St. Louis Rams. Joe Johnson recovers it, scores a touchdown. He has a Pro Bowl year. He didn't miss anything. So, you don't I used to worry that there was a holdout jinx. There really isn't a holdout jinx. I mean, these guys are professionals. They take care of their bodies, take care of themselves. I'm not worried about Michael Thomas when he comes back. I just want him to come back sooner, just to get this all behind us, and we'll just keep moving forward.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about a first-year rookie that's trying to make the adjustment for going from college ball into the professional level. We're talking about somebody that has experienced this grind, or they've gone through this process for 3 seasons now.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas isn't missing anything.
No, and he is a pro's pro. He is going to do. He's going to take care of business, and I just want to, like I said, I want this over with. And I get really aggravated with the people who want to trade him because, like, a la Brandon Cooks or Jimmy Graham, because they think he's asking for too much money. I think that's probably the worst thing you can do in this locker room is get the impression that this organization will use you until you're no longer useful, then trade you rather than pay you. That's a terrible message to send to this team.
Well, I mean, even that being said, Michael Thomas is producing at the highest level imaginable.
Right.
So, what would it benefit the Saints to get rid of you? I mean, even if you say, just for the sake of argument, say that you decide you're going to trade Michael Thomas. What's the best return that you can hope for? A first-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think that you're going to get another, or even possibly an upgraded model to what you have right now? How often do college players come through the draft, enter the league, and do what Thomas has done?
People are screaming right now, Marcus Colston. Colston was a diamond in the rough and a once in a lifetime. You start looking at the 7th round draft picks, and for when we used to have 8, 10, 12 to 17 rounds, start going through the 12th round picks, 17th round picks. I can name them all that actually panned out. Marcus Colston, Jim Wilkes, a 12th round pick in 1981. Danny Abramowitz, a 17th round pick in 1967. That's about it. You know,
you're talking about once a decade.
Yeah. The rest of them is Zach Streif. Yeah, I get that. But the rest of them are like Rufus Johnson. God, I had a whole list in my head right before I started this comment. But, you know, you start looking at the 7th round picks we've had in the past, even the recent past, outside of the 2006 draft, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, from 2006 to 2018, those 7th round picks are hard to find. 6th round pick is terrible. So yeah, you can trade him for a 1st round pick. I think it sends a terrible message in your locker room. But are we really rebuilding? What have you done to your 2019 team if you trade your number 1 receiver? Do you think that the Saints will be a better team in 2019 without Michael Thomas? I certainly don't.
No.
And it's not just because I'm a fan of his. You saw the offense last year. If you take away one of those weapons, you think that offense is going to be better? I don't. I don't at all.
Well, I mean, you factor in also, who else, based on last year's performance, who else do you have that's good and dependable and reliable? Who else do you have?
Well, and that's going to lead to our next segment, because I can hear people screaming Emmanuel Butler, his name, or Cecil Grayson. You know, some of these undrafted, or Rashad Matthews, these guys that are in camp day 5 and are getting the Anime Ojo, Walter Thomas, all that treatment where, you know, this guy is a stud. Let's start getting the bust ready for him for Saints Hall of Fame, because I know he's going to be the next insert the player you like best on the roster. And that's what I wanted to go to next, was talk about some of these undrafted free agents that are having unbelievable camps right now. And, of course, 2 guys, because Michael Thomas is not there right now, who are catching a lot of people's eyes. Emmanuel Butler, for one, and Grayson, the track star from LSU. Those are 2 receivers that people really, really gaga over. They're having some outstanding they have an outstanding camp so far. Have you been hearing much about these guys up there?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
social media is about the only outlet that I have to get any information from training camp, and admittedly I don't follow that too much. But on this subject,
Yeah.
how many? Just, I mean, you are a student of the game.
Mm-hmm.
How many times in the history of this league have you ever seen a track star that transitioned to a superstar football player?
Very, very, very few. Willie Galt and uh, number 22 for the Dallas Cowboys, long before Emmitt Smith. Bullet Bob Hayes.
Yeah,
Those are probably the only ones who really have translated to being NFL caliber receivers from being track stars.
I can remember when the 49ers had Ronaldo Nehemiah,
Mm-hmm.
and you heard that they signed him, and then he disappeared.
Yeah.
Uh, it, Track is a completely different thing. In track, they don't hit you back.
Yeah. Well, track, you're not catching a football either. An odd
Yeah,
shaped object. Yeah.
with bodies flying at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't do the long jump and have to hurdle somebody on the way to the takeoff point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to make the transition. Usually you have to work with the jugs machine, really learning how to catch an NFL football by looking the ball in, making the triangle, the whole bit, catch the ball all the way in. One of the skills, I think that one of the drills that Marcus Colston used to do was they have numbers on the end of the ball, each panel of the ball, and he had to catch it and read out the numbers to his coach to show he's looked the ball all the way in.
Yeah.
Because what most times when people drop the ball, they do one or two things. They take their eyes off the ball just as it's coming in and close their hands too early or too late, or they try and catch it with their body, and the ball's coming at such a speed that it bounces off your chest, bounces off the equipment, whatever. So, the big thing is it's a positive. It's going to be fun to watch him. It's someone to watch when the preseason games start. But like Bill Parcells said, put away the anointing oil. Let's see what we've got first.
Yeah.
Now, Emmanuel Butler, on the other hand, he's another player like Brandon Coleman from a few years ago. People are calling him Marcus Colston clone. He's 6'4", 220, which is pretty close to what Colston was. Okay, it's I think Coleman was tall. He's 6'6".
Yeah.
He's been catching everything in camp. It'll be interesting to see how he does in the preseason games, if he can still do these same things, because we have seen year after year after year of training camp, there's always a Mr. August who just totally lights it up in preseason, and then come regular season, where'd he go? Why would they play this guy? And he's just not. He just didn't turn out that way.
Transversely, I think last year we had an example of someone that had an outstanding August and then a really solid preseason, and his name escapes me now. 76.
Oh, Taylor Stallworth.
Yeah, Stallworth. He made this team on the strength of what he accomplished in the preseason.
Absolutely. And hey, we've already seen Cameron Meredith get cut. Cameron Meredith is gone. And I think, I think his performance is why Cameron Meredith is gone, because they are similar receivers. And I think that Cameron Meredith, he just favored that knee a little bit too much, nursed that injury just a little bit too much. At the same time, like, you know what? We don't really need him taking up these reps with these young kids. Let's keep pushing these Graysons and these Butlers and Matthews and all these other receivers. Let's keep seeing what we got going on here, and don't waste our time anymore with Meredith, because he's not going to. We can't count on him. We just can't.
I mean, Is there any position on this team where the bar is set higher than wide receiver, though?
Running back probably.
Well,
Running, yeah, and quarterback maybe.
I wouldn't say that for the quarterback because you're set there.
Yeah,
And as far as running back, I would lean, though not as much so, I would lean in the same direction with running back. But with no, oh, well, I guess we say that Thomas is the number one. But between Thomas and Jared Cook, the only thing that you've got is Alvin Kamara. And every pass route you have him run is a running play that he's not going to be able to make.
Yeah. And I think that, and this is something I've been saying because a lot of people seem to want to put Rashard Matthews in that number, in the final 53. I think he, in particular, going to have a very hard time making this roster because for whatever reason, Sean Payton is kind of funny about veterans. If all things are equal, Sean Payton's going to go with the rookie or the undrafted free agent over the veteran. And I say that because Matthews is going to have to be in that mix of top 3 receivers on this team for him to make the team. And you've already got Traquan Smith and Keith Kirkwood who have a leg up on him. So he's really competing with those 2 guys to get a spot because I don't see Matthews making the team as the 5th or 6th receiver. I can see a Butler making that team as a 5th or 6th receiver. I can see a little Jordan Humphreys or Grayson, or pick your guy that you like right now. One of those guys I can see making the team as that 5th or 6th receiver because it's a guy who may be inactive some weeks. It's a guy you probably could put on kick returns. It's somebody you can do multiple things with who's cheaper than a veteran. So if you're a veteran, you really have to beat out the top 3 or top, let's take Thomas out of the equation, the 2 through 4 receivers to earn a spot. And I think that's the hill that Matthews is going to have to climb. We'll see on that. Okay. It's a positive thing though, that these guys are having these great camps, that we're not, we're not bringing in receivers every other day and trying people out because we're not happy with what we got. We seem to have a lot of young potential players coming in. And that I know that makes people nervous when they're thinking about a Super Bowl caliber team, but it's a good thing because these guys will merge into a good locker room and will be brought up to speed in a hurry. So I think it's exciting. I really do. I like what I'm seeing so far. I like what I've heard about Butler. I like what I've heard about Jared Cook. He's better than I thought he was going to be.
I never got excited about the Jared Cook thing. I had my reasons. And I'm not going to be a naysayer, and I'm not going to be a pessimist or an Eeyore. But sorry, inside joke. I will say this: he had one great season in Oakland, and he's on the bottom end of the age scale. But adversely or conversely, everything that I've heard out of camp thus far has been positive. I trust Sean Payton implicitly. He knows what he needs from these guys, and he saw something in him that he thought he could work with. So let's roll with it.
What I've been hearing out of camp so far is he is making circus kind of tight end catches. He may be 32, but he hasn't lost a step. But the thing about Cook that's dogged him his entire career is the inconsistency. So that's always been my negative about him. He had a career season in Oakland. He's going to have pretty much the same kind of season for the Saints, and because we're going to require that of him. I've always felt he was about a 60 catch, 600 700 yard guy. Maybe I may now push it up to 800 and 6 touchdowns. That's the kind of because of Thomas and because of Kamara and because we're more running oriented than the 2011 or 2009 teams that were more pass oriented. We won't need Jimmy Graham kind of numbers out of him. We don't need him to get 16 touchdowns. We don't need him to get 10 touchdowns and 1,500 yards and all those and catch 99 balls. You're not going to need that out of him because you've got a Michael Thomas, because you have an Alvin Kamara. You've got a more stable running game than you had in 2011 and 2009. So, that's the trade-off. Drew doesn't have to put the ball in the air. We have a better defense. We don't have to put the ball in the air 30, 40 times a ball game anymore. Drew can go 18 to 23 for a touchdown and 250. And that's fine. That's good. We can still win like that. We don't need him to throw 5 touchdown passes. So that's why I kind of temper my enthusiasm with Jared Cook, but I am excited about that he's having a good camp.
Yeah.
Hey, some of the other guys we've been hearing about having good camps, since you said you didn't hear much up there. Defensive line, Malcolm Brown, Malcolm Brown and Mario Edwards. Both are having very good camps.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's something that was a concern. And I think we're Cam Jordan is Cam Jordan. We know what he's going to do. Davenport has been having a solid camp. So, that's all good news. We're not we're not seeing a bunch of defensive tackles being paraded through here, defensive ends being paraded through here like we thought. Mike Daniels became a free agent. Saints didn't even bring him in. Saints weren't interested in him.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Of the 4 players that you just mentioned on that defensive front, Cam Jordan, Malcolm Brown,
Mario
Edwards, and Davenport. Of those 4, who has to have the most standout season for this to work?
There's 2 of them. Brown has to have the great season stuffing the run and pushing the pocket. Because if we can't stop the run, if teams are averaging 4 yards a carry on us, we're in trouble because the whole defense unravels from there. If you can't stop the run and you're consistently facing 3rd and 3 or less, you'll never get off the field unless the other team makes a mistake or there's a penalty. You can't win football games that way. That has been the problem 2012, 2014, even to an extent 2013. With 2014 through 2016, that was the problem. We could not stop the run. That makes the passing game so much easier when you can't stop the run, too. Because in 3rd and 2, the whole playbook's open. You can run the ball, you can run a screen, you can do play action pass, you could take a shot deep on 2nd down because you get it on 3rd down. So, that makes your defense look worse than it really is. So that's my first one, Brown. The second one is Marcus Davenport. We have a lot riding on him. We know what Cam Jordan's going to do. But if Davenport cannot take that first step, that big step forward as a starter and get us 7 sacks, 8 sacks, stop the run, put pressure on the quarterback, string plays out, be a 3-down defensive end, that's going to be tough on us. It really will, especially because you gave up 2 first-rounders, essentially.
Yeah, that was the point that I was going to make. My choice on that would have been Davenport first because you paid such a high price to get him. You're going to have to start seeing a return on that investment.
Yep. And it needs to start now.
Yes.
And believe it or not, I'm not really that worried about Davenport because barring injury, I like what I saw out of Davenport early in this season, last season. That Washington game, that Minnesota game where he did get hurt, I saw a lot out of him. A lot of speed, a lot of power. He killed Alex Smith. I mean, when they replayed that fourth down play, or it might have been a third down play, but that play, because of a penalty, they replayed that down, or a timeout maybe. It might have been a timeout. And Davenport came around the end and killed Alex Smith. You just saw him take that hit. I mean, it was like, oh, the ball comes out, everything. That's what I want to see. Yeah, it reminded me of the 1990 San Francisco 49ers versus the New York Giants game. I think you know what play I'm talking about. Where, yep, Joe Montana is getting ready to throw, and here he comes. How's the old saying go? It's a Ford meeting a rooster.
Yeah, and the rooster lost.
Yes,
and if you really want to get philosophical about it, that was the beginning of the end of Joe Montana's career, right?
Yes,
there.
It was. Yeah, it was, because it took him a year to recover from that.
And I think it was inside of another year before he was traded to Kansas City.
Yep. Yeah, they gave Steve Young the starting job in 1990. And yeah, Montana was never the 49ers regular starter again. He went over to Kansas City and lasted 2 years in Kansas City. So
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
let me ask you, while we're winding this anniversary show down, let me ask you another kind of one of those rhetorical, philosophical questions. What is over the years, Saints fans have had to endure many a painful experience on a regular basis, it seemed. And all of you that don't know who was the Saints starting quarterback before Drew Brees came to town, you really have no point of reference for this question.
Where are you going with this?
It was Aaron Brooks, by the way. What has been the most painful play for you in Saints history?
Oh my God!
And this is a two-part question.
Oh God.
Now, see, there's a million people. Actually, I wish a million people were watching us, but there is a ton of people right now that's sitting there going, the NFC Championship game. And that doesn't even scratch the surface.
Yeah, I've done this before, a list of top 10 worst plays everywhere from Big Ben and Big Ben was in 1978. Steve Bartkowski threw a Hail Mary. We were up 17-14. We threw a Hail Mary, final seconds of the game. Saints players go up to knock it down. They bat the ball in the air. Little Alfred Jenkins catches it, scoots it in the end zone for a touchdown. Yeah, that's one. The punt going over Irk Slavens' head in the rematch in the Dome a year later. That's another one. Mike Lansford kicking that field goal in 1983 against the Rams, with the Rams against the Saints. All we need was win that one game, and we go to the playoffs. Instead, he makes the field goal. The Saints go 8-8 out of the playoffs, and it was the end, really, the Bum Phillips era. God.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a ton of them. But
let me ask you this.
The championship game does rank right up there because of everything that was on the line. And I can go into that, but everything was on the line for that. But go ahead and ask me another question.
Okay, with all of these bitter and painful memories, which ones will you never get over?
Oh, that's all of them. As I was saying off the air, I still get pissed off. And in a football life, the forward pass, you guys Go look that up on YouTube. Football Life, the forward pass. They show Jerry Rice, and this is now taken from the air. And I'm going to get to where you want me to go with this, but it's taken from the air, from an aerial shot. You can see Rice coming. He's got this ball. He is going to hold it up like over his head that he's going to score a touchdown. And he fumbles it. He knocks it with the other hand. He fumbles it before he crosses the goal line, kicks out the end zone. That's a touchback. No, not with the 49ers Saints. That's a touchdown. That's a touchdown. And in 1989, that happened. I was screaming, that's a touchback. And we had instant replay. They didn't even review it. And to make it worse, if you can watch the game on YouTube. Terry Bradshaw and Vern Lundquist do the game. And Vern Lundquist even says, "Oh, look at this. Did he really catch? Did he really score? Was this a touchback?" Saints fans might say it was. As the Saints fans might say, "What?" They are saying it's a touchback. So fast forward now 30 years. It's now January of 2019. Nice sunny day outside, cool weather. I had to be home. I couldn't go to the game, so I'm watching on TV. No one else is home but me. I got my windows open. I got the door open. I got the screens all up. Because I have an old sliding glass door at my house. My neighbors, 4 streets over, know that there was a blown call in that game because I let the entire world know in no uncertain term that was not just pass interference, it was pass effing interference. Throw the effing flag. So if you ask me if I'm ever getting over this game, I will never, ever get over this game. Just like because those other things that stick with me, this one, much like in '83 with Lansford's, much like some of these other games where you feel like history could have been changed if this play is called the right way. History would have changed had they called pass interference. The Saints are allowed to run out the clock, score a touchdown, kick a field goal, whatever it takes to win the game, go to the Super Bowl. Go to the Super Bowl. We talked about this before, too. You get to play Tom Brady. We very well could have beaten the Patriots because that was not an impressive Patriots team that went to the Super Bowls past year. We could have very well beaten that Patriots team. So now that changes the legacy of Drew Brees. Drew Brees is no longer the yeah, but guy. He is the guy who has beaten both Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the championship game. He beats those guys. It's no longer a question of, okay, there's Brady and there's Manning and then there's the rest. No, it is now Brees right in that conversation because he would have beaten both of them in a Super Bowl. So you're damn right I'm never getting over that thing. And Mark Ingram talked about it on Pro Football Talk, and he said that Saints fans, the team, the organization will never get over it. You better believe we'll never get over it. And I'm hoping for a revenge tour this year where we don't have to hear, well, you had other opportunities to win this ball game because we're beating team 63-0. That's the kind of I want a General Sherman scorched earth policy when it comes to beating these teams. I want not only the other team's field scorched, you dig it up, pour salt, then put the dirt back over so nothing grows there ever again. That's the kind of season I want to have this year. Absolutely.
And I think we need to. The Saints need to make a statement. Screw all this playing fair and being sportsmen. No, What they allowed to happen to the Saints last year was not only wrong, it's unforgivable. And it doesn't matter what you do from this point on about that NFC Championship game because it isn't going to change. And everybody was talking about circulating the petition to Goodell to have the game. That wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to reverse the result of that.
No.
And even if that thought process had been entertained, do you really want your team to be the team that made it to the Super Bowl via the court, or do you want to be the team that won it on the field? I wouldn't have wanted it if we didn't win it.
Well, yeah, I agree with all that stuff. That I was going to save a lot of this stuff for when we do play the Rams in week 2. Because my attitude about this coming Rams game in week 2 is if we knock Jared Goff out of the game and we take out Aaron Donald with an illegal leg whip and we just, it's the body bag game part 2. Go look that up on YouTube. Eagles versus Redskins, Monday Night Football, the body bag game. If we have a body bag game too with the Rams and we're up, say 45-0, and we have the ball, much like the Dallas game in 2006. We've got the ball inside the 5. They can't stop the clock. They don't want to stop the clock. They just want to get the hell out of there. And we have the ball. Instead of taking a knee, I'm running for a touchdown, and then I'm going for 2 because that's how petty I am. And when they talk to me after the game, I'm going to say, well, there was still a few seconds left in the game. You never know what could happen. I didn't want someone to come back and say we were a bad, we had other opportunities to win this ball game. I want to take advantage of every opportunity we have to win this ball game.
And then kick an onside kick after.
That's right. And then go to Roger Goodell's shirt, the clown face, have that shirt on for your press conference. That's just me. That's petty me, so. I
don't want Thomas Morstead to work all year.
You want him to put himself inactive.
That's right.
I'm in that. I want to see that. I know it's not realistic, but I do want to see that just because when you tell me to get over it and you tell me that there are other opportunities you have to win the game, I don't want to hear that because one of those opportunities we had to win the game was late and they took it away. And because of that, you gave a team that didn't deserve an opportunity to win the game an opportunity to win the game. So that's why it doesn't fly with me.
Yeah.
The Rams would not have had the opportunity to win that ball game had that call made the right way. And it wasn't even one of those, could be. No. Everyone in their right mind would say, except if you're a Ram or Falcon fan, would say that was pass interference. But like I said, I'm not letting it go. I still get pissed off about all these losses and things that happen in them, especially as important as of a game as that was.
Well, the reality of it is not a lot of people are really aware of just exactly how hard it is to be in that place at that time. How we've talked about it on here before. All the planets have to align. You've got to be really lucky. You've got to catch some breaks. And, you had home field throughout the playoffs when people thought you were going to be looking at maybe a 9-7 year. You had a murderer's row schedule lined up against you. And you overcame all of that and were that close.
Let me just, I got the schedule from last year. Let me just say a couple things. The Murderers Row began on Monday night against the Washington Redskins, a team that historically we've struggled with. That was the first game. Then you had to go to Baltimore, a team that Drew Brees had never beaten as a Saint. No, he's never beaten his whole career. And the Saints hadn't won in Baltimore since Jake Delhomme beat him in 2002. Then you had to go back to the scene of the crime, Minnesota, to go play the Vikings. Then you had to come back the following week to host the Rams, then go to Cincinnati, then host the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, then turn around in a short week and host the Falcons, your number one rival. So, yeah, that's a murderer's row right there, and we won them all. And it was just hard to do. to try and do that again. I mean, that's the part that just drives me crazy, because I can't sit there and say we got to do better. You have to do better than 13-3. You have to do better than home field advantage throughout the playoffs. You have to do better than winning 2 games to get to go to the Super Bowl instead of 3. I mean, it's so hard, and that's why this thing will burn me forever.
I know that the players are professionals, but it concerns me that, I mean, you go back to the beginning of this. You do all the right things. You play your heart out. You do everything that is required of you for the last play of your season to be the Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah.
You come back focused and dedicated and motivated, and you do everything you can again, and you work harder, and the last play of your season, the last memorable play of the season is pass interference no call that keeps you out of the Super Bowl. At what point do these players start being human beings and saying, look, we do the right things, and this is what happens?
Yeah, and in the Minneapolis Miracle, you can sit there and say, well, you know what? We play that game at home. They probably don't even get in a position to do that because the crowd noise, everything else. We probably take care of the Vikings at home. But
by the same token, the Saints had absolutely no business even being in that game after the first half.
Well, no, and that's what that second half. Have you had that play not happen? That second half, once again, legacies change because of a single play. That second half would have probably been one of the greatest comebacks in Saints history, because of, just like the 49ers game in 2011, here you shoot yourself in the foot for an entire half. You do the same thing in the 49ers game. You shoot yourself in the foot with 5 turnovers in an entire half, but you still put yourself in a position to win. In the Vikings game, you put yourself in a position to win by a field goal. In the Saints 49ers game, playoff game, you take the lead twice. Twice you take the lead in the final 4 minutes of the game, and you still lose. I mean, it's again, that's just yet another memory that just hurts. And you look at missed opportunities like that and how legacies would change, because an organization like the Patriots never has to deal with that because they don't have those things happen to them, and we do. So, that's
by the way,
crazy.
By the way, his name is Davis.
Yeah, Vernon Davis.
Yeah, we probably need to leave his middle name out.
Yeah. Well, his middle name for me starts with an F.
Yeah, mine too.
Anyway.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's once again from the heart. Thank you guys for allowing us the opportunity to do something that we love so much, and we love each and every one of you. There's a few that have been with us from the beginning, like Jerry and Anna and Matt.
Yeah.
Been a guest a few times. Bob. And the guests that we've had over the years, Kyle Turley, Joe Horn, Brian Milne, Tyrone Hughes, Quinn Early. Wow, who else have I? Those are just the ex-players.
Yeah.
Countless journalists, people that cover these teams on.
Barry Hurst's, D. Scott Alexander. That was our first guest, D. Scott Alexander.
Yep. Done from the parking lot of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
In the front seat of my car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't tell me I'm not dedicated, brother. But, someone asked me a few days ago, they said, did you ever envision it lasting this long? I said, I never thought about it like that. we're going to do what we do. And when it gets to the point that we can't do it anymore, that it's going to be that.
That's right. That's right.
As long as you guys keep showing up and keep pressing that little triangle to turn us on, we're going to be here.
That's right. Well, thank you guys also for sticking with us all this time. We got a lot of training camp news. I didn't even get a chance to talk about the 2 draft picks. This will be interesting to see. The Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Saquon Hampton both having very good camps, very, very good camps, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Could possibly push Von Bell and certainly Marcus Williams, but we're going to see if this draft class with only 5 players. If it turns out the way we hope it will, this could be one of the better draft classes since the 2017 one. So, this is an exciting time. First preseason game is Thursday night, Sean. Believe it or not, the Atlanta Falcons play the Denver Broncos on Tom Benson Field Thursday night in the Hall of Fame game, and we are 10 days away or 12 days away.
The 9th.
The Saints' first preseason game. So, which is what, a Friday night? I think it's a Friday. Yeah,
I think so.
It's a Friday night, so August 9th.
Usually the preseason is like Friday, Saturday, Thursday.
Yeah. So football's coming. We'll have some more. The Saints are off tomorrow, so there's really no news going to be coming out. But I think the next padded practice is Friday or Saturday. So we'll see what happens. So far, we've had a really good camp. Lucky on injuries, knock on fiberboard. Only a couple guys been nicked up a little bit, but for the most part, looks like everybody's going through. We don't have any players who, as Sean Payton used to like to say, we'll see them sooner rather than later. Meaning we probably won't see them at all during preseason because of injury, but
yeah,
we're not having that problem. We got a young team, so that's good. But I know Sean's got to make the donuts. We will see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.